Good afternoon and evening to all of you around the country. Thank you for spending the next hour with us. We appreciate your time and know you guys have lots of things going on, so thanks for taking some time out to connect. I know about 25% of you that signed up tonight, so for those of you that I know, welcome. I'm excited to be with you and get to hear what's going on around the country. And for those of you I haven't yet met, I look forward to doing so in the near future. My name is Susan Rossi. I'm based out of Colorado, and those that know me know that I was previously with Adaptive Sports USA as the executive director. And with our merge, I have taken on the role of director of competition for Move United. So it's been a great first few months. And joining me tonight will be Jesse Cloy, who's also with the competition team, and Glenn Mary, who is the executive director. So a few things about tonight. We've recently realized that we've done a lot of touch points with the event directors of the sanctioned competitions around the country, as well as with our competition committee, but we haven't been in touch as much since the merge with athletes, coaches, and the parents and family members out there. So we wanted to make sure we just took some time tonight, had a transparent opportunity to answer any questions you may have about what's going on and what's to come, whether that be about the organization in general or about the competitions that are out there, and just provide you with some updates. So that's what we're going to dive into tonight. We're going to have Glenn here to provide some updates on Move United in general. And then Jesse and I will dive into what's going on with the competition department as regards to the sanctioned competitions that are run out there by our member network, junior nationals, as well as the International Wheelchair and Amputee Sport Federation that we are affiliated with. So if you don't mind, sit back and enjoy. And there's the chat feature that you have here on webinars that you could continue to say hello to everyone and ask questions. And then we'll also open it up towards the end of the hour. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Glenn Mary, who, as mentioned, is the executive director of Move United. Glenn.
Good evening, everyone. As Susan said, my name is Glenn. I hope everyone can hear me or read the script at the bottom of the page. I'm really pleased to be here, really pleased to be leading the Move United movement and celebrating the unification of Disabled Sport USA and Adaptive Sport USA, which took place last summer. So a couple of things. I only have 5 minutes in the program, which you'll be thankful for by the end of the 5 minutes. But I wanted to just speak to you from kind of the highest level of what's going on at Move United and how we got here. So over the past year, there's been a lot of activity in our organization. And one of the major things that happened was this merger between our two sister organizations and under the formation of the new brand of Move United. And that merger really represents the concept of unifying adaptive sport movement, and where Disabled Sports USA had strengths and a lot of resources around recreational sport and engaging people in fitness and health, outdoor recreation. Adaptive Sport USA had this really strong component around competition. And my background, I spent 20 years in the national governing body world, running the sport of rowing on the Paralympic and Olympic side. And so I'm really familiar with competition. And by bringing together all of the elements that an athlete can engage in sport, I think it gives greater power and greater opportunity to our athletes. And really the merger is about making a one-stop shop, a seamless effort for our athletes to enter into a system, learn a sport, engage. If they wish to compete, if they wish to train up and attempt to make a Paralympic team. Certainly our chapter network, which is now closing in on 200 members around the country, enables people to find that training location and engage the sport at whatever level they want. We truly see sport as a tool to change lives. And that's not just the athletes' lives. It's not just the families of the athletes. It's the American people, the culture of America. To have the American people change their view of what people with disabilities are capable of and what they should be invited into and included into overall, not just in sport, but beyond that into society. So Move United is really the formation, and you'll begin to see over the last few months a change in messaging, a change from just a service organization around sport to really creating a movement about getting people active and engaged, a movement about changing people's viewpoints on their own potentials and others' potentials. And it's an opportunity for us to look forward as an organization. So I came on board about 2.5 years ago. And in 2019, we set off to define a vision of where we would like to land. At that point, it was 10 years away. Now it's only 7 years away, but around 2028. And why is 2028 important in the context of adaptive sport? Well, if you look at the stadium behind me, this year we have the Paralympics coming up in Tokyo. In 2028, it returns to American soil in Los Angeles. And my 20 years in working in Paralympic and Olympic sport have demonstrated to me the importance of that to the host nation, the importance of engaging people who didn't know sport was an opportunity for them, the importance of engaging the country's population to understand what people are capable of on the field of play, and to really unlock the potential of individuals with disabilities. So as we look at how we're moving forward in our Vision 2028, there's many pillars, and there's a couple of YouTube videos where I talk more about the vision. So I'm not going to get into all those specifics today, but there's a couple of key foundational environments, and that's that we're looking at growing so that 90% of the American population by 2028 will be able to participate in adaptive sport, and will be part of this Move United movement. So I think I've used up most of my 5 minutes. Is really an opportunity just for me to say hello, so you can recognize my face. If you come to Junior Nationals or Endeavor Games this year in person, I'm likely to be there in person at both events. There's an email on my screen. That's my email. I'll put it into the chat as well. The foundational environment that we're created at Move United is a movement where people feel comfortable in reaching out with your thoughts and questions. And we're looking to engage the community. So if you're an athlete or a coach, it's your opportunity to reach out directly to the executive director, directly to Susan Rossi, the competition director, so that we have a good sense of what's going on in your world and how we can do a better job in serving the community of people with disabilities. So thank you very much for enduring my, what might now be 7 minutes. And I'll turn it back over to Susan to go through the formal presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. And as Glenn said, he is available, and myself and the whole team here, we want to make sure this is a big family and we're all in this together. We can't achieve where we want to go by 2028 in a vacuum. And so really we want to be on board, all of us together in this mission and movement. So thanks, Glenn, for your leadership. Appreciate you being around for tonight. And I'm just going to dive into a little bit more about our department and some of the things we're working on, and hopefully some of the things that you're involved in with your coaches and your athletes, or if you're an athlete yourself, hopefully you can spread the word as well. So as Glenn mentioned, there was a competition department created within Move United as a result of the merge. And that competition department is made up of myself and Paralympian Jessie Cloy, who you'll hear from in just a little bit, as well as Shelly, who started us off tonight. And we also have a great group of experts, many of whom are on this call, that are part of a competition committee made up of officials, classifiers, event directors, a parent, an athlete. There's a little bit of representation of all kinds of expertise that's out there in the community on the competition committee. So Jessie and Shelly and I rely on their expertise a lot to bounce ideas off of, to also have a voice for each of those different roles in the competition space in what we're doing and the decisions we're making. And then also to connect people to if there's resources needed in the community. So it's a strong foundation in the department, also with the other team members that are throughout Move United. So we are here for you all, and excited to move and embark on the vision moving forward. A couple things that we focus on in the competition space for Move United is some things I mentioned briefly earlier. The sanctioned competitions that are across the country, junior nationals, our presence internationally at the International Wheelchair and Amputee Sports Federation. And then we work with other departments of Move United on training and education initiatives. So I'm going to dive into each of those a little bit, starting with the sanctioned competitions. Jesse, if you want to move forward. Hopefully you guys have been involved in these. If not, for those of you that haven't, I just want to give a little bit of background. There's typically 20 plus events around the country that are run by our member organizations, typically anywhere from 1 to 8 sports, multi-sport summer events, running usually from March through July. And these events are open to all ages. Typically you see anyone starting around 6 years old through adulthood. All performance ability levels, as far as some people that are just starting out, grassroots athletes, all the way up through the pipeline, developmental athletes, elite athletes, to the Paralympic podium of Paralympians out of these. So we want to make sure it's inclusive to all and everyone feels comfortable. We also really like that mentorship opportunity where a young athlete might see a Paralympian and get to experience some mentorship through them. So there's a place at the table for everyone at these events. Each of them has a little bit different look and feel depending on their geographic location and what sports they offer. But the bottom line is to get people engaged in sport at a competitive level and give them opportunities within a driving distance to their home. A couple other things I want to note about these is why we call them sanctioned competitions through Move United. Is Jesse and Shelly and I and the competition committee actually do a vetting process to make sure they have safe sport practices in place. They have good venues that they're using. They're using certified officials and classifiers. This year that they have COVID plans in place. So we're going through that process of making sure that they're a quality event for you guys to attend. Some of the things we're excited about this year, I'm not going to mention too much about this because we'll formally announce it in the month to come, but there's some sponsor activation and activation through national governing bodies that we're working on nationally, and that's feeding out to these local organizations and events. The Hartford is one of our longstanding partners that's been involved with Ski Spectacular and other initiatives through Move United. That's now seeing how valuable these opportunities are to athletes around the country and wanting to jump on board. So we'll be announcing some things in partnership with the Hartford that I think you guys as athletes and coaches will enjoy as far as some virtual opportunities as well as on-site in-person events in the near future. We do hope to grow this network, not necessarily all huge events, but making sure, like Glenn said, there's opportunities within a certain driving distance to all the populations in America. So some of the areas like the Pacific Northwest, we'd love to invest in and make sure that there's opportunities nearby. Some of the ones coming up, you could stay here, Jesse. I just want to point out our website is in transition right now because of the merge and the rebrand. We are excited to launch a new website towards later this spring. So it is a little bit in flux right now, so it may be hard for you to just naturally find the list of all these competitions. So I just want to point out, if you go to our website at moveunitedsport.org, under the sports tab, you will find the Move United 2021 sanctioned competitions. This is a place you can download the printable PDF version of a brochure of all these events that tells you the local event director to contact. It tells you the sports that they're offering, the location, the dates. I would suggest you guys downloading that or passing it along to your friends or your colleagues. Also, this listing on the website will show the most real-time, up-to-date version of the schedule. As we all know, this is just a crazy time. We're excited to start to launch in-person events, but as we know, things are changing and evolving every day with the coronavirus. So the list that you'll see on the website now is the best place to look to make sure you know exactly what is going on if anything's been canceled or postponed. So we're excited that there's 18 events that are going to be live that are listed there now. One other thing to point out about that before we go into the COVID plan is according to when these events are, they all have different launch dates for registration, and those will all be listed on their event website. So just make sure if you see one that's interesting to you or a location that you want to attend, that you jump on those event websites that are listed off of this link to check out when their registrations open and close. Go ahead, Jess. We wanted to dive a little bit into COVID plans for the events tonight, but I want to be completely transparent to you and let you know that everyone is learning as we go with this. And I think you guys will understand that, the current state we're in, this is how it is across the board for anyone doing in-person events. So we are all learning as we go, but we understand the importance of protecting the athletes, the coaches, the officials, and all the spectators on site at the event. Otherwise, it just shouldn't go. So I can tell you firsthand as the event director for Junior Nationals, we are in the middle of developing a plan. We don't have a plan to share with you tonight. We will launch the plan when we launch registration in May, which is typically what all the other events are doing. They're sharing their plan when they launch registration. So we are currently working with Children's Hospital in Colorado. We're working with the venues to develop that plan, but between now and May, it will change because things change daily. So just to give you a little snapshot of some of the things that you may see at some of these events. I know Texas Regional is the first one up in April, so they've launched registration and their COVID plan is already available. Desert Challenge, their COVID plan is on their website. So you'll start to see real life plans in action, but here's some of the things you might see in general if you are going to travel this season to an event in person. I'm sure most of you guys have seen this if you're going to schools or gyms or anything in your local communities now, but temperature checks, screening questions to make sure that you haven't been exposed. Some may have a negative COVID-19 test within 72 hours of traveling. Mask requirements, there's typically fluctuation when you're actually in the middle of competition, but when you're walking around in between heats, surrounding areas, requirements for masks. Social distancing, I think by now we are all experts at, that will continue. Things like archery with mouth tabs or shooting with air guns. Some events may choose to use plexiglass dividers. Obviously, sanitation of equipment when you're handing off different field implements that are being used by multiple athletes. There'll be practices in place to clean those. Usually, athletes or coaches or parents may linger around the area for a good amount of time between events. There would be suggestions on when you would arrive, when you would leave, and how long you would stay around between heats. And then I think the most obvious one is limiting spectators that can be on site, whether that be just general public or your family members. So I wish I could tell you it's the same across the board and there's just one snapshot, tried and true policy, but it really does depend on each geographic location, the venues these events are working with, and their local guidance from their government, from their local government. But these are some of the things you will be seeing. I'm not looking at the chat. Is there, let me just peek really quick if there's anything glaring about this that I could address. Okay. So we ask for your patience. We have taken a survey of the athletes that attended the 2019 season to see what their comfort level was in returning to play in person. And we were very surprised and excited to see that 80% of the athletes stated that they wanted to head back into in-person competition and they were ready. So again, I know this is changing daily with vaccines and availability of COVID tests and things like that. So we will continue to keep you updated, and we will, for Move United and Junior Nationals, we will produce that plan by May 1st. And for the others, many of them already have it on their website. but this is a general idea of what you'll expect. Go ahead, Jess. And we can open it up in just a little bit for Q&A. I'm going to ask Jessie Cloy to go ahead and jump on to talk to you about some of the classification opportunities that are available at the events this season.
All right, hey everybody. So we have tried to list the classification opportunities that we know of that are happening at our sanctioned competitions this season. Primarily the classification opportunities are in swimming and track and field. However, there will be a few exceptions to that. So I've noted on these slides, some of the panels are still pending. As you can imagine, it's hard to get classifiers to be able to travel around the country during COVID. And so some panels are still pending, but hopefully, fingers crossed, these events will all get the classification panels they've requested. So I will. At Junior Nationals, we're really excited to be able to offer, in addition to swimming and track and field, we're going to be able to offer archery classification nationally, which will be the first time we're offering this at Junior Nationals. And additionally, we're working with USA Para Powerlifting to offer national classification for powerlifting. So we're really excited about those two opportunities for our youth athletes. And if there are any questions about classification, go ahead and ask them in the Q&A, but otherwise I will move forward. Okay, so heading into Junior Nationals, the Move United Junior Nationals presented by the Hartford will be this July 17th through the 23rd in Thornton and Westminster, Colorado. Susan, as she mentioned already, is our event director, and we're really excited and looking forward to seeing everybody in person there this summer. We have a couple of changes in 2021 that we wanted to just point out. The one, if you guys have been to Junior Nationals in the past, you know that with Adaptive Sports USA, we had an requirement around individual membership. That requirement is not going to be in place for 2021. Move United is looking at developing an individual membership program. However, it is not ready to be launched yet, and we're not sure what that program will look like in the future. But for 2021, no added fee for membership, which is, I think everyone's probably excited about that. Okay, in terms of sport qualification and criteria, there have been a couple of modifications. So one, we've extended our qualification period. So you've had from January 1st, 2019 through the close of registration for Junior Nationals in order to qualify to compete. So we wanted to give anybody an opportunity who has been in the system to use some times and marks from years past, which is why we extended it through the 2019 season. And then we also know that everyone didn't have an opportunity to compete in 2019, or maybe it wasn't a mark that would qualify. So for 2021, we've also outlined on our website, which is, you can see the link there, the www.moveunitedsport.org/Junior Nationals. That will actually take you to a landing page, and you will have to click one more time to get to the active page. But if you get to our Junior Nationals site, under event information, you'll find eligibility and qualifying sport rules, things like that. And it'll outline there for each of the sports that are being contested, the new kind of 2021 exceptions we have for how you can qualify. So ideally, we want you to be able to go to our sanctioned competitions to qualify, or to one of your NGB's events to qualify, or a high school event. However, if that's not possible, we have outlined ways that you can creatively qualify to come to Junior Nationals, because we don't want anybody to be not eligible to come simply because there's not an event in your area or you're not able to travel prior to July. So please check those out and let us know if you have any questions about that. And then, I apologize. One other thing is that Junior Nationals, as you know, is for athletes under 23. And since we were not able to hold junior nationals in 2020, we wanted to extend the opportunity to any of the athletes who would have aged out in 2020 to compete in 2021. So if you are 23 or you have an athlete or coach, work with an athlete that is 23 and would like to come to junior nationals, please just message me, and we will work that out within our registration system to allow that athlete to register. They will compete alongside the U23 athletes. However, we'll probably do some kind of dual medal system so that we can recognize those who are truly under 23 and then the athletes that are coming in at 23 years of age to compete.
Jesse, there was 2 questions in the chat if you could address now. One was from Matthew Kelly. Will the 2019 marks in time be time length versus current age group and classification?
So I think what you're asking, I think if I'm understanding correctly, if you were, for example, a U17 in 2019 and now you're an under 20, will that count? That's a great question. I would ask if you could email me just to explain your specific situation. We can absolutely figure it out and work around those exceptions. I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking. But yes, we'll figure it out. The theme here in 2021 is to get as many people as possible qualified and able to come because we just want to see everybody in person and hold this national championship. And I can't see the chat, Susan, so I apologize. Could you tell me if there was anything else?
There was one additional question similar to the one we just had. Jenny's son would have been U11 last year, but now is U14. And then I'm not sure if you're aware off the top of your head, or if we would want you guys to look at the U.S. Paralympics classification website, but will there be a track classification opportunity in the Southern South Carolina, Georgia region?
There is not that I'm aware of. And yes, you can go to, if you are looking for, so I'm going to scroll up for a second. There will be a swimming classification opportunity in the Georgia, South Carolina area. That's the Peachtree Pear Games, which you see on this sheet now. There will not be a track and field classification panel at that event. And you can go to U.S. Paralympics, if you Google U.S. Paralympics track and field or U.S. Paralympics swimming, and then go to their website under athletes. I think it's under athletes. I apologize. I'm not as familiar. But anyway, you'll find classification under the menu. And they do have a link out to their most up-to-date list of classification opportunities. There are not any track and field opportunities that I know of in the Georgia, South Carolina area, though.
And we could put that link that she's referring to in the chat in just a moment. And for those of you that do not know, U.S. Paralympics owns and coordinates classification, but we always like these venues with the sanctioned competitions to be venues for classifications. So requests are put in and Paralympics assigns classification panels as they have available to them. So the goal is to get as many as possible out there. And for this year, this is what was assigned.
Okay.
Thanks, Jesse. And for those of you curious a little bit more, if you are planning on coming to Junior Nationals and you want to start to plan your travel, here is a skeleton schedule for the week. And once we put out registration, as we mentioned early May, we will put out the firm schedule with times. But this is how the week looks. Really starting Sunday. Saturday will be classification for archery and swim for those that come a little bit earlier, that register for those opportunities through the registration system. Sunday we will have swim classification as well as track and field and powerlifting classification. And we will kick off the competition in archery and para triathlon. Monday, continue with track and field classification. All morning will be swimming competition, followed by powerlifting competition in the evening. Continuing classification on Tuesday for track and field, more swimming competition as well as a shooting competition throughout the day. And then those of you that have been in the past understand that we do this welcome ceremony we do on Tuesday, so that if swimmers are just coming for the first half of the week and then they leave, or if track and field athletes are just coming for the second half of the week, we catch everybody with that overlap on Tuesday for a welcome celebration. Wednesday will be field, as well as a clinic put on by the U.S. Tennis Association. Thursday, both morning and night will be track competition, and Friday morning will be track competition, and we will close off on Friday. It's not listed here, but we'll also sprinkle in some educational sessions and socials throughout the week. Most of this will look similar to normal, for those of you that have been in the past. We are doing considerations around the ceremonies, especially closing ceremony, to be outdoors, a little bit more informal than usual, just because of wanting to make sure everyone is spaced out more than usual because of coronavirus. And it looks like we have a question, Jess, if you don't mind addressing this. How does the Paratriathlon differ from USA Youth Paranationals?
Well, we differ probably in a few ways. One is, and I don't have the distances in front of me, so I apologize, but if you do go to the Junior Nationals website, you can see the distances we compete at for our Paratriathlon event at Junior Nationals, and they are shorter. It's like a sprint, I think that's how I define it. So it's not the same distance. And then we are not as, I don't know if I want to say not as competitive. I believe that the USA Triathlon Youth Championships are, put on by the NGB, and they're their youth championships. I can't describe that any better than through the words that they choose to use. And our event at Junior Nationals is filled with both competitive para-triathletes and then some athletes who are trying triathlon for the first time. So we have an opportunity for, both to compete. Not necessarily at the first time they've had to qualify in order to compete, but it's not their primary sport, I should say.
And we are working with USA Triathlon on this event. The race director of that portion and that sport is a USA Triathlon certified race director, and they do have a competition as well that backs up to this event. But all of these things supplement and complement each other versus competing in any way. So it's another opportunity for athletes. What we've seen, this sport has only been in Junior Nationals for a few years. What we've seen is that a lot of the athletes that do track and a lot of the athletes that swim do this for fun and try it out. We would love to see this sport on the program increase attendance and potentially draw in some new athletes that aren't necessarily already at Junior Nationals.
Sue, we have some additional questions in the chat. Somebody asked if we would please repeat how to find qualifying times and distances.
Yep. Jesse, I will drop that in the chat in just one moment. But it is on our website, our Junior Nationals website, under event info and eligibility requirements. So I will drop that in the chat.
And then we have an additional question. How often does an athlete need to be classified? My son was originally classified in 2018 and competed in Junior Nationals in 2018 and 2019. I believe T36.
That's a great question. So most often, once you are nationally classified, you are good until you want to move up to international classification and compete internationally. There are exceptions which are in the 30th classification. So I can't speak directly to your athlete. We could, if you send me an email, there's a way to look on the US Paralympics classification database, and it will state on there whether that athlete needs to be reviewed or not. And so if the classifiers have marked your athlete as needing to be reviewed. They'll also put a date, a year next to that athlete's name. So you know that in 2021, that athlete has to be seen again for classification. So it is all on the national database. And so I'm happy to help walk you through that.
Jesse, we have an additional question. Do you allow 11U kids to compete against 14U kids for things like the 1500 meter that aren't typical for 11U?
So we've had a couple of athletes who have wanted to race the longer distances in the past. We do allow that. However, the way we allow that is the athlete has to compete in the U14 age group. So they have to opt to age up in order to compete. So that's just the choice that the athlete has to make, whether they're willing to compete in the U14 age group for all of their events, or if maybe the 1500 isn't that important and they want to stay as an under 11.
Okay, I think we've got it. Sue just threw the eligibility requirements link in the chat for all of you. And I think we've covered all of the questions up to this point.
Great, thank you. I just want to mention one other thing about Junior Nationals. And for those of you that I did see a couple people registered for tonight's event that specifically work with military. So thank you for sticking with us for this last slide on juniors, because I know that's not your primary target audience that you work with, but hopefully this is good knowledge and you could spread it on to someone you may know. For Junior Nationals, I'm excited about what lies ahead. As some of you may know, we're in our 37 years would have been last year, 38 years of this annual event, which is just an amazing history. It is a very large undertaking to create a new event in a new city every year with a different local organizing committee versus an event that stays put in one place. So that's what a lot of our time in the competition department goes to, is creating and educating new local organizing committees. So we're going to make this a little bit more sustainable, and we're moving to a 2-year bid cycle starting now. We will be in Colorado this year in 2021 as well as 2022. And then we will launch a bid to select host cities on a 2-year cycle from 2023 to 2028 in the very near future. So we just wanted you guys to know this, one, in case your city is interested. We'll make sure the whole network knows about this and the opportunities and how to apply. The second is because we think it'll be exciting to have a forecast of events a lot earlier than we have in the past, so that you could, if you are an athlete or a family or a coach, you could plan your travel a little bit in a more time-sensitive, timely way. So just know that that's going to start happening here, and then we're always having discussions on how to enhance things, potential things to do differently, things that have worked really well. So as Glenn mentioned at the beginning, your voice is always appreciated, and we do look at things like surveys we put out and discussions we're having as we think through all of this. So just know that this is to come, and we will move to a 2-year cycle for Junior Nationals. And Jesse is going to tell you a little bit about our relationship with the International Wheelchair and Amputee Sport Federation. All
right. So the International Wheelchair and Amputee Sports Federation, also known as IWAS, it's an international organization focused on developing parasport globally. It was a founding member of the IPC, the International Paralympic Committee. And Move United is the U.S. member organization to IWAS, which provides us the opportunity to field a team for the IWAS World Games and the IWAS Youth World Games. So some of you have seen that IWAS is hosting a World Games in 2021 in Portugal. We will not be sending a team to that event. However, we are looking forward to 2022, and they will be hosting the IWAS World Games in Sochi, Russia. Currently planned for October 2nd through the 9th, 2022. So we're working, Sue and I and Shelly are working with the NGBs of the sports that are projected to be on the program, to to tell them about the opportunity that is coming up, and then to work with them on how best to choose a team to go to this event. We do work in partnership with the NGBs on this, although typically Move United will support a team in track and field and swimming, but there are often a lot of other sports that are on the program, and we're not always sure which sports will be included until the announcement comes out. And so we aren't able to predict that always. However, once we know which sports are on the program, we work really hard to ensure that there's representation from many of the athletes and NGBs that are interested in competing. So be on the lookout for next year for going to Sochi, Russia, if you're interested. There may or may not be a youth component to that event. However, we do consider athletes that are 14 years of age and older. So if you are 14 or older and are interested in competing internationally, then keep that on your radar. Any questions, Sue?
No, I just want to reiterate that as far as big picture, how this fits into the whole world of adaptive sports, there's, like I said earlier, there's this whole pipeline from grassroots to elite, and we're excited that at Move United and with our member network to offer that opportunity to all of, an athlete that fits anywhere along that pipeline. And the value of every stage of that pipeline is equally as important, from somebody just going out and recreating and getting physically fit and socializing with their peers, to somebody that's just getting real life experience traveling internationally and representing the United States of America. So that whole spectrum is super important and pretty amazing to collectively all of us represent. And so is that developmental international competition at the development stage. So through Move United, they get that first international experience that then may get them to then go on to the Paralympic Games. So there is that developmental stage where it's the stepping point where they're going to national championships, they're going to national events, they want some international experience against international competitors. So this is a great middle ground between what we're doing here nationally and the Paralympic Games. So more to come on that.
So we do have a question up in the chat. Would you need international classification to compete with IWAS?
Usually yes, and I just typed in the swimming classification opportunities for you. Usually yes. If somebody wants to apply for the team, it does not rule them out if they don't have international classification. Typically, IWAS will have it on site, but they would need to be able to be classified there or beforehand if not. But yes, when they're on site, they have to be classified.
Yeah, and just to add to that, if IWAS doesn't have international classification, they always request it, like Sue said, they request classifiers for track and field and swimming, and then in other sports that are appropriate, included on the thing. If they are not granted their classification request, then they allow us to send athletes that only have national classification. The downfall for you as an athlete is that your results do not show up on World Para Athletics or World Para Swimming rankings list because you're not internationally classified. But it is an opportunity. So if classification isn't offered, then they usually make an exception for us.
Go ahead, Jess. And we might not have caught all of the chats, so we want to make sure we open up now for questions for Jesse, Shelley, or I. I'm not sure if Glenn's still on. If he is, I'm sure he'd address anything you have. Or, oh, he is. Fantastic. And then I think some of our competition committee and event directors are on from around the country. So if you have anything and would like to write it in the chat, we would love to address it to make sure this is worthwhile to you. Jesse, do you want to take Alan's question about classification? I don't know that that was addressed yet.
Can you tell me what it is?
How often does you might have addressed this. How often does an athlete need to be classified? His son was originally classified in 2018 and competed at junior nationals then.
Yes, I did answer that already. So, but if just as a reminder, you don't need to be re-seen or reclassified unless the classifiers put you under review. And they should tell you that at the time of classification that you're under review or you will need to be reviewed, and they'll give you a year that you need to be seen.
Who's got one for Glenn Murray? He's on the hot seat here. He's ready. If there's any event directors that wants to drop anything in the chat specifically about their event or anything that's come up during this conversation, feel free. We'll give you all another minute or two. Gotta have something.
I see, I was able to get to the chat. I see that, Laura, your question about, are most of the youth attached to adapted teams for these events? So I think that that's hit or miss, and I'll let Susan also answer if she'd like, but at our sanctioned competitions, I think it's, I don't know what the percentage would be, but I would say maybe 50% come with teams and 50% show up independently. At junior nationals, the majority of athletes are registered and compete with a team. However, we have a pretty strong, like 30 to 50, depending on the year, contingent of independent athletes. And we have tried to create a team independent, thanks to Frank, one of our wonderful volunteers, and some others. We have team independence. We bring all the independent athletes together from around the country to make them feel like they are a part of a team. And then we do awards at the end of the week based on your region, East, Central, and West Coast. They get to compete against each other, first, second, and third.
Did you want to add anything to Jesse's response?
No, thank you though.
Okay. All right, we have another question here. If you have a date for review of classification, does that need to happen at nationals or an event prior to nationals?
It can happen either or. So if your date is 2021, or if it was the unfortunate 2020, then you can be seen either at an event leading up to junior nationals, or you can be seen at junior nationals. We will have 2 panels for track and field, hopefully, fingers crossed, and 1 panel for swimming.
And we have another question. Any idea on registration fee for junior nationals?
Yes, and that is all on the website, but you can, so if you don't want to jot it down now, you can go back and check it out. But it is $50 per sport. In the past, if you have competed with us in the past, we considered track and field 2 separate sports when it came to registration. This year, it's just 1. So it's $50 per sport with a maximum of $175 if you're a multi-sport athlete. And coach registration has dropped from $100 to $50.
If there are no sanctioned events near us, can we use times from local swim meets?
Yes, yes, you can, and that should be outlined. I hope that information is on the website, or at least when you read it, you get that idea. You can use results from high school meets, YMCA meets, USA Swim meets. We just need you to have a proof of performance in some way. So whether that's on, I'm blanking on the name, is it Meet Manager? Somewhere where it's online, where we can have proof that you did that distance in that time, or we have a proof of performance form that you can actually take with you to the event and have the event director sign it, the head referee, And you can do that also for track and field or for any of other sports. We have a proof of performance form that you can have signed by the officials.
As long as it's signed by that, as long as it is a sanctioned event by that national governing body. Yeah, absolutely.
Is Move United doing anything new in regards to veteran competitions?
A handful of these sanctioned competitions around the country are receiving funds through the Department of Veterans Affairs. So except for maybe one youth specific event in junior nationals, all the other ones are absolutely welcoming and encourage veterans to come out and participate. Some may have some scholarship opportunities for registration for them or travel opportunities. I'm not say some because it's not across the board, but there are some that do. On my, as we talk about growth in events and growth in competitions, definitely conversations we want to have is more with those that are in the veteran space. And there are some events that are specifically for that targeted audience that I'm sure if you work with them, as far as the National Veteran Wheelchair Games and the Summer Sports Clinic and the Valor Games, the Warrior Games, Invictus Games, all of those, which I know a lot of you coaches that are on here also coach for those events, and maybe some athletes participate in those. Some of those have a little bit different rules or different classification process than us, but we encourage people to go out to those as well. They're amazing, long-standing events. And for the ones we've listed on our calendar, know that they are welcome to anyone, all ages. So that's something we will be applying for again this year, is some funding through the Department of Veterans Affairs, and many of our chapters will be doing individual initiatives with that.
What would you recommend for kids with no local adapted teams? Stay independent or hook up with a team not local to you?
Are there any athletes on this call that want to write in the chat their suggestion there? I know Jesse and I probably have our thoughts, but we'd love to hear from you as well. I think there's some power in the independent myself. I love to see independents out there. But I also see, for instance, junior nationals, it can be overwhelming with the teams. So we've seen a lot of the independent athletes hook on to a coach from a different, from a team and kind of be part of their team for camaraderie. We've also seen the independent athletes hook up with each other to be one big old team independent. And I don't think it's as much of an issue or as evident at all the local competitions as I do junior nationals. But either way, it really depends on the athlete. If anyone is new or anyone is feeling intimidated in any way, absolutely reach out to the event director, and we'll make sure that their experience is a little bit more successful, and we help ease any of the uncomfort that they might not have not knowing anybody by introducing them to an athlete, by introducing their parents to another parent, that kind of thing, to make sure it's a welcoming environment to them. And Isaac says hook up with a team. Potentially had that experience.
Okay, it looks like maybe our last question is, will travel accommodations be available on the website?
Anthony, is this for junior national specific or for all of the events? Regardless, all of the events will have host hotel and lodging information and suggestions on their website. Junior nationals will have that when we launch registration the beginning of May.
So we have another vote. This is from Tana. We joined a team we found through CHASA that is full of athletes that are stroke survivors like Jana. She likes to have a team to belong to at nationals, but we compete on our own in Kentucky. And then Anthony had just clarified junior nationals.
Yep. Excellent.
Yeah.
Was there any questions that were unanswered? And as you know, we're available and ongoing dialogue, and we appreciate any feedback throughout the year, any questions throughout the year. If you want to move forward a slide, we will make sure you know Jesse and my email. And then we also just want to mention one thing, and we want to thank Shelly Fazzini, who you hear here in the background. Shelly's been with us for 4 years, and will be experiencing her last day on Tuesday, I believe, to embark on a new adventure in her career. So Shelly, we want to take this moment, everybody on this call, to thank you so much, and we appreciate you and the work you've done. Shelly has been a tremendous asset and just amazing with customer service and passionate about what we're doing and bringing life to what we're doing. So although Shelly won't be a part of our team moving forward past next week, I know she'll be involved in cheering everybody on. We'll hope to get her out to junior nationals to cheer some of you guys on. So thank you, Shelly.
Thank you. It's been an amazing experience for me. So it's bittersweet leaving, but it's been great, and this is a great team, and they are doing amazing things. So really, really pleased that all of you joined us tonight.
Thank you, Shelly. And then the next slide has Jesse and my email, just in case you want to follow up on anything we talked about. The websites hopefully have most of the information where that can address your questions. And then if you need support outside of us, Jesse can connect you with some individuals on our competition committee or with any of the event directors in the areas you're looking for programming. So with that being said, Shelly, would you like to close this out?
Yes, I guess apologize, my video has been off this whole time. Thank you for joining us this evening. We so appreciate you, all of you. And we'll look forward to seeing you out there at all of the events this year, and hopefully at Junior Nationals. And have a great evening.
Cheers, everyone.